I'm going to enable or activate one resource in the labs that's going to give you some information about YAML. YAML is the notation that we're going to use for CloudFormation. Okay. So here, remember that I created two folders, one for CloudFormation and one for Terraform inside NCI deployment. In Terraform, I have this one that I did for network, right? We're going to do databases as well, but database doesn't have anything. I'm going to create inside CloudFormation, I'm going to create my networking template. Okay, networking, and then the extension is going to be YAML, right? Okay, that's the extension because that's the template, the notation that we're going to use. Okay, you guys with me? Are you guys with me?
I'm just listening.
Yes.
Watching.
Yeah, I'm following, Professor.
Okay.
Yes.
If you can follow me now, it's better because later it's going to be a lot of work, right? There's a lot of work, right? Okay. So let us begin doing the networking part. The first thing that we're going to do, right, is use the parameters section. Okay. Right. And of course, YAML is very important that you guys leave indentation just like Python. So YAML is similar to Python. You have to leave the indentation because that tells me that whatever I do here is inside the parameter section. If I bring it here, it will be another section. So I have to leave a space here. So parameters are used when you think that your values in your account may change. And you will understand when we deploy the template, right? When we upload the template, you're gonna see how it asks you for information, right? So what's gonna happen here, when I do the key name, that's gonna be the first parameter. The first parameter is that when I upload the template, before I submit the template, it's gonna ask me for questions, but the questions are gonna be drop-down menus, drop-downs, right? And it's gonna show me all the key names that I have in my account. So I don't have to enter it manually, right? I don't have to hard code the values. Parameters are used when you think that your values may change over time. So you're gonna leave that open for the person that is uploading the template to choose what's the value they're going to use. So if we right now have a key in our account, it's gonna show in the list of parameters. So you just have to click on it and that's it, right? So the type of the parameter, as it is a key, is gonna be AWS, colon, EC2, because a key for EC2, colon, key pair, colon, key name. So that's the parameter, okay? So all the parameters, they usually, and the resources, they start with AWS, colon, the service, colon, and what you're trying to get. And this we get in the key name, right? So that's gonna be our first parameter, right? Now, our second parameter is going to be the VPC CDR. No, that's the CIDR, I'm sorry, not CDR, the CIDR. So let's say VPC CIDR, right? That's my second parameter. Don't forget the indentation, right? So the type of this parameter is going to be a string, right? And the default, which is the value that's going to show, is going to be 10.0.0.0.16. So that's going to show in our CloudFormation, So as soon as I create the first resource, I'm going to go ahead and upload the file for you guys to have an idea and how it's going to work. Okay, how it's going to work. So the second section that I'm going to create, which has to be in the same level, at the same level as parameters, because it's another section, is going to be resources, right? This is the only required section because we create resources with CloudFormation, okay? And we are creating here a VPC. So create a VPC, right? Now, what's the name of the VPC? And this is, remember when we talked about logical ID and in Terraform, the logical ID to refer to that resource throughout the template. So in CloudFormation, we do it a different way. We just give it a name. Let's call it demo VPC. So that's the logical ID. Okay. Always you give it a logical ID when you start something. That's the logical ID. This is the guy I'm going to refer to just in case I have to use the VPC ID or something, and we have to reference this guy, right? Now, what am I creating? Well, I'm creating what the type of this resource is a VPC. So I'm going to say EC2 and VPC. You see, when you create a resource, you simply say AWS, the service the resource belongs to, and then the resource, right? That's what I'm creating here. Now, the properties, resources, they have properties, right? And always leave a space, okay? Always leave a space, indentation, okay? What does the VPC have? Well, it has a CIDR block, which we did in Terraform, right? If you took a look at Terraform, when we created the VPC, it has a CIDR block right here, right? This is the logical ID, right? And this is the CIDR. In CloudFormation, we have the logical ID here, right? And we have the CIDR block here. So the CIDR block is going to refer to a parameter. Where is the CIDR block? Here. So what I have to do is use a function, and the function is called ref, right? Ref. The function refers to something. We're going to refer to this guy here because this guy contains the CIDR. It's right here. So we're going to say refer to VPC CIDR. Okay. So basically, when you select the parameter gives you the choices. You're going to select this one by default, and then it's going to be assigned to this guy. Okay. This is the reference function. It refers to this, right? Now, a VPC also has, here we have enable DNS host names, and this indicates whether the instances launched in the VPC gets a DNS or get a DNS name, host name. We say true here, we're going to say true as well here. So we're going to say enable DNS host names, right? And we say true, right? And this indicates whether the instances launched in a VPC, in the VPC, get DNS host names. Okay. Now, the enable DNS support, well, in that case, we're going to say false. DNS support, we say false. Okay. Instance tenancy. As you can see, it uses camel casing. You know, every word starts with a capital letter. Okay. Now here it says instant tenancy default. Right here, you see instant tenancy default. we're going to say the same here. We say default, right? And that's it. Now we're going to say the tags. The tags are different. They're not the same as Terraform. You use here tags equal, curly braces, name this. And CloudFormation is going to be different because we're using YAML. YAML is different from the Terraform language, okay? So we say key. And this is what an array means in YAML. We're using an array because the tags are two, key and value, right? That's an array in YAML. So if you use JSON, we have to use the square brackets for arrays. In YAML is a dash, okay? So key, the key is going to be name, and the value is going to be demo VPC, right? That's it. The VPC is created, okay? Okay.
So, but I have
Professor,
a question. Oh, sorry.
Mhm.
so what's the meaning of like enable DNS support?
Okay, so let us check the documentation. Enable DNS support, CloudFormation. All right, let me see. Building your VPC with CloudFormation. Very good. This is the documentation. So it explains here everything. In the case whether the DNS resolution is supported for the VPC, if enable, queries to the Amazon provided DNS server at this IP address or the reserved IP address at the base of the VPC and network range +2 succeed. If disabled, the Amazon provided DNS service in the VPC that resolves public hosting to IP is not enabled. Enabled by default. For more information, this. Yeah, we can enable it, but it's enabled by default. You can disable it, whatever. It doesn't make any difference at this time, right? But it basically the case where the DNS resolution is supported for the VPC. If enable queries to the Amazon provided DNS server at the DNS, this guy, IP address, or range succeed. You know what? I think we should enable it, but by default is enabled. So we basically don't need this guy. Okay. So by default is enabled. We don't have to enable it. Okay. So I'm going to say here false, true, I'm sorry, for you guys to have it, right? But you don't need to put it because by default is enabled. Yeah. So just for the DNS resolution of AWS, right? This is for your instances to have a DNS hostname. And that's very important because maybe you don't want to use the public IP. Maybe you want to use the DNS provided for the instance. Now, I'm not going to continue now. I'm going to continue creating the gateway, all that later. But for now, let us deploy this for you guys to see. We're not going to submit it, just for you guys to see how the parameters work. Okay, so let me go ahead and log in, okay, to my account. Right. Okay, so I'm going to type CloudFormation. And then I'm going to go to CloudFormation. Several stacks here, right? And I'm going to create a stack. Okay, yours may not be the same as mine because it already has stacks, but look for what it says, stacks, and then create a stack. Okay. New resources, standard. And then here we have create a stack. So we can use a template that is ready. We can use a sample template or create a template in Designer. So we're going to use template is ready. So we can use a template that is in an Amazon S3 bucket, or we can use a template that we upload. So we're going to click here, right? The template has to be in JSON or YAML. Okay, our template is in YAML. Okay, so we're going to look for that template and look for the NCI deployment folder and look for the one inside CloudFormation and network YAML. Okay, so that template is already here, right? Now that it's here, we hit next, and then this is where we see the parameters. Okay, so the VPC CDR or CIDR, I'm sorry, it's already there because we put here default, right? So it shows by default there, right? Now the key, it gives us, you know, it's a drop down that we can choose, and if we have 20 keys, it will show the 20 keys. You see how cool this is? And this is the parameter section, right? Now, like I said, when do you use parameters? When you think that your values may change. What happens if someone deletes this key, but you still have others? So, or you create a new one, it's going to show here, right? So you don't have to hard code anything. Okay, so that's how parameters work. Okay, if I go ahead now and deploy this guy, right? So I can say my VPC template, right? And I hit next. Then I have all those settings here. I'm not going to touch anything for now. I hit next. And this is the estimated cost. Of course, it will not cost anything because VPC is free, but this is the parameters that I chose right here. I don't have any tags, permissions, stack, anything here. I go ahead and create a stack. So once I create a stack, it gives me a sequence of events here. So here is creating progress. And now if I refresh the demo VPC, create in progress, and then it should be done in a minute because, I mean, it's very simple. Okay. Now, right now, resources, the VPC is in progress, right? Let's continue. VPC already created, template created. Okay, it's already created. Now, if I go back to my VPC, I will be able to see that the VPC was created, right? So now I have two VPCs, as you can see here. If I click on VPCs, I will be able to see my demo VPC there. Okay, so it's a little different from Terraform, but we are creating a resource as well. So right now we have our VPC DNS resolution enabled. We did DNS hostname enable. We did, right? The route table, default route table is created. We're going to create our custom route table. Okay. It's not the default VPC because we created. The tenancy is default. This is the CIDR, right? And that's it. That's it.
Professor, with CloudFormation, we can create anything we want or just VPC?
No, anything we want. There's some services that you cannot create with the CloudFormation, but there's something called custom resources that you can create a custom resource, and with a custom resource, you can create those services. Okay. So basically, this is infrastructure as code. You are creating your infrastructure with YAML, right? We just created VPC. We're going to do a lot of things. We just created VPC, right? And this is just to test it, right? Now what we have to do is go back to the CloudFormation template and delete the CloudFormation template or the stack. We delete the stack. So we click here, delete, and delete the stack, and then the delete easy progress. Soon, our VPC will be gone, right? So if I refresh this, deleting is a very fast process. It depends on how many resources you have. But right now, if I do, it's gone. It's gone. You see? CloudFormation is a very, very powerful service. It's used, you see, delete is complete. And it doesn't show here anymore. It's gone, right? But we just created a VPC for you guys to have an idea how CloudFormation works, right? At the parameters. We're going to continue here. We're going to create now an internet gateway, right? So far, so good, guys? Yeah?
Yeah, I think.
Did it work for you guys, or do you just watch me?
My YAML, I don't know, like it's stopped like at the YAML, like my file didn't save as a, like it's not connecting as a YAML.
What?
Just watching.
Like, you know how we have the TFC files, or I mean TF, whatever, the Terraform files for the other one,
Yeah.
the Terraform, but like the CloudFormation one, I tried to save a file as .yaml, and it just has, it's just an exclamation point is like coming up next to it. I don't know if I have to download an extension.
Oh, no. That's correct. That is the logo. That is the icon for YAML. It's an exclamation point, but this is a different template. I mean, this is the theme.
Oh, okay.
It depends on the theme of VS Code. And this
Oh,
theme it has a Y. But if you have the regular theme, you get an exclamation point in purple.
oh, okay.
In
I was like,
purple.
what is going on? I was okay. All right. Because
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah.
gosh, like I don't know what I have to do
Yeah.
now. All
Yeah,
right.
if I'm not mistaken, it's a purple exclamation point.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
All
good.
right, cool.
And for me, Professor, when I try to
Mhm.
upload the file, I get an error saying invalid template property or property.
Yeah, it happens when you have some misspelling. You misspell something.
I misspelled something.
If you misspell something, it will tell you it doesn't exist. It's invalid. So the most common errors are misspellings and indentation. If you don't leave the indentation, it will give you a problem, right? Because you said it's YAML, so you have to respect the indentation. If you put JSON, then you have to do other another format, which is more complex because you have to take into account the commas, you have to consider the curly braces, you have to consider the square brackets. YAML is the preferred notation for CloudFormation templates.
Do you mind
Right.
if I share my screen really quick? Maybe you can have.
Why
a
not?
spot.
Why not? Go ahead, please.
Appreciate that. Okay. So, screen.
Can I just ask a really quick yes or no question?
Mhm.
Sorry, Fatine, I know you're
No worries.
sharing.
No worries.
Are we supposed to delete the VPCs?
I deleted it because
Like
we're going to
other-
continue. We're going to continue to create other resources in this template. And you're going to deploy the entire thing. It's just a test for you guys to see how it works. So delete the stack, don't delete the VPC.
Okay, I mean like from the other day though, like the Terraform ones, like the one
No. Did
Don't
you upload the file in CloudFormation?
I haven't done anything for
Okay.
today's, like I barely
So-
have done, yeah.
So
but like it's,
you don't have to do anything.
okay, but what
VPC
about the VPC that we created? Remember that day I was like, oh no, I didn't delete whatever. Like if I go to my VPCs, I have that demo VPC that we created that day.
Okay, you didn't destroy the resources with with Terraform destroy?
I haven't done that. No, so should we though? Like I was just looking at yours. I don't know if we should.
Well, we're gonna create basically the same VPC with the
Okay,
same
so
CIDR, the same.
Got you.
Yeah.
So it's fine if we delete it and stuff. That's fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay. All right. Cool. Thanks. Sorry, Fatine.
Let's see, Fatine, what's the problem here?
I see that I put this one in capital instead of.
No, that's the end. Yeah, of course. That end should be capitalized.
Okay.
Okay, save it. Save it and try to upload it again. There you go. Oh,
So
invalid properties, parameters. Okay, let's go to parameters.
what's the parameter?
Okay. Yeah, parameters with capital P. You put a lowercase, I guess. Go back. Parameters with uppercase P.
Oh, this one. Okay.
It's a section. It's a section. So, all right, save
Well,
it.
I
and-
didn't read the error. I thought it was
Yeah.
something. Okay.
And Professor, but in
Mhm.
line number 3, it's EC.
Oh, give me a second.
Instead of
Which one?
EC2, you wrote, yeah, over right.
Oh, yeah.
It
Thank you.
happens with me too. That's why.
I guess I'm
Since
still
we press
switching.
shift and it's EC2.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay, save it, please.
It's I guess it's gonna work now, hopefully. No.
I saw another error. You had
Okay, a
EC2,
string
EC2.
string is with capital P, capital S. I'm sorry.
This one?
And line 6. That's right. And
Go to line 12 as well. You have EC2 twice.
Fatim,
It should just do
Fatim, what's going on?
EC2 once.
Once. Okay, I guess I'm still sleeping. Okay.
Fatim, what's
Show
going on?
you.
I know.
Two
Did you get
colons.
some?
And
Did you get some classes from Priya?
No, actually, I barely slept yesterday. I didn't sleep till 3.
Okay.
Like our team failed the test, so I felt that I
Okay.
needed to study.
Key name needs to be capitalized too, I think.
Which
With the
one?
key
And,
name, line 3.
Correct.
and is the indentation for the properties like line number
No.
from 14 to 20 is correct, or should be in this line?
That's
in
correct.
the-
That's correct, because if it is a property, it has to be indented.
Indented.
Okay.
The second key name in the string at
Okay,
the end.
the word key, line 3 at the end, word key
This-
capitalized.
The K.
Yeah, the key.
Okay. And I'm not sure what's happening to my computer.
Mm.
Okay, give me a second.
It looks good now.
Okay, so let me just resave and go try it now. Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
it works. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Well, so you guys see how parameters work, right? Now, as we're not creating, an EC2 instance here. So this parameter, we don't need it because we're selecting a key for nothing, which is this is only for networking, right? Now, that was to show you guys how parameters work. So where we're gonna use, we're gonna create. I put here networking, but I also have an instance that I'm going to create. Okay. So basically, we're going to have 2 templates. One launches a simple instance, and the other one launches an instance with a server. Okay.
Professor, can I ask a question real quick?
Go ahead.
Down where you did the array in front of key,
Mhm.
do you not put one in front of value, or is value not a
No.
part of that, or?
Yeah, this indicates that what's coming after this at the same level
Okay.
is an array.
Okay, so then
So
if you had
yeah.
something after that, it would denote that that stops. The
Correct,
array
correct.
stops.
It
something like-
it will be an
okay.
error. It will be an error. So this is the same as this. Like you have key and value, something like that.
Oh,
But in YAML is expressed like that.
Okay.
Right? So let's create an internet gateway. An internet gateway, we have here the name or the logical name of the resource. It has to be the same level as demo VPC. Okay, same level, because that's a resource that we're creating, right? So this creates an internet gateway, right? This has to be the same level as the VPC, right? So we're gonna call it demo internet gateway. This name can be anything you want, okay? It's just the logical ID, right? Don't forget the space, indentation, and remember that every resource contains a type. So we're gonna say AWS, EC2, and what are we creating? An internet gateway. Now, the internet gateway depends on the creation of the VPC. If there's no VPC, you cannot create an internet gateway. So we're gonna say depends on, okay? Depends on. The clause here, missing the D here, depends on. And what does it depend on? The demo VPC. So we copy this logical name here, ID, and we put here, right? You see, the internet gateway depends on the VPC. Now it has properties, and that's simple. The simplest resource that you can ever create. Okay, it has properties, and the properties are tags, right? So we're gonna say key is a name, and now the value is demo internet gateway. Okay, that's it. That's the internet gateway. That's all it needs. If you create it in the console, you just have to select the VPC, and that's it. Of course, we haven't selected the VPC yet because we're creating the internet gateway, and now we're going to attach it to the VPC. Okay, remember that the internet gateway has to be attached to the VPC, right? So we're going to end this section, right? And now we're going to attach it, right? So we're going to attach the internet gateway to VPC. Now, this is going to be the logical ID is going to be gateway attached to VPC, to demo VPC, right? That's the logical ID of that, right? Now we're going to say the type of this guy is AWS EC2, and then the type is VPC gateway attachment. So we cannot improvise here, guys. It has to be the exact resource that we're creating, right? It's the VPC gateway attachment, okay? Now we say the properties, right? Properties. So we have two properties here. We have, first, we need to have the internet gateway ID, internet gateway ID. So we have to refer, what are we attaching? A gateway to a VPC. So we need to have the ID for the gateway and the ID for the VPC. That's what we are attaching, right? So again, we use the ref function, and then we refer to this guy, right? That will give us the ID, right? And the next one is VPC ID, and then we use the rest function, and we refer to the demo VPC right here. And that will get the ID for us. That's it. That's the attachment. You guys understand? It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
What we do here makes sense. So we are basically attaching this guy with this guy. So we need the IDs for both. So we use the ref function, right? The reference is something. The reference to the VPC, it gets the ID. That's what we're looking for. I references the internet gateway and gets the ID, which is what we're looking for here.
And Professor, I do have a question. Like for example, line 24 or 34, like the naming should be the exact name as
No.
demo internet gateway, or it's like a function that we can call.
Okay, wait. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. This name has to be the same name as what?
So, like, is there a syntax, like a specific syntax to create an internet gateway? We need to put demo internet gateway, or we can call it like X.
This is a logical ID. I can say here Fatim if I want.
Okay,
But
that's
I have to make sure. I have to make sure that when I reference it, I have to put Fatim here.
Okay, got you. Okay,
Right?
thank you.
This is the logical ID can be anything, just like in Terraform. This
Got you.
can be anything you want.
Okay.
Right? We get to choose what we type here, but here this is something from CloudFormation.
Got you.
Right?
Okay, that was
This
my
is not
question.
something. Yeah.
Thank you.
Logical IDs. These logical IDs here. This is what you want. What you want. You can name it anything you want.
Okay.
Right? Anything
you.
you want. Okay. Now, after we have that, we're going to create the public subnet. Right? So we're going to say here. Right? We're going to say create public subnet. Right? Right? And the name of the public subnet, I'm going to call it public subnet. Right? Anything I want, remember, public subnet. What are we creating? A subnet. So the type is AWS EC2 subnet. Right? Now, what are the properties? Well, the properties is the availability zone, the cited block, map public IP on launch, the tags, and the VPC ID, because we have to have the VPC ID where the public subnet is going to be, right? So now we say properties, and we leave a space, don't forget that, right? And we say availability zone, right? Okay, this is the same level as this. You see how it gives me an error the way it was before? You see this line, red line under the column? Because it has to be the same level. Okay. So availability zone is going to be US. US is 1A. You can use whatever you want, guys. Okay. Right. The cider block. Okay. Well, the cider block, I could have done the same thing here for the VPC for the subnet, right? So I can say subnet, right? The parameter, right? And say type string, and we can say default, and we say 10.0.0.0/24 for the subnet, right? So maybe subnet cider, right? And copy this guy. So you can take this as a reference and do it here, similar. And when it asks for the cider block of the subnet, you can use the reference function and refer to that one, just like we did with the VPC here, right? Same thing. Okay. So in this subnet, we have something called map public IP on launch, right? And we said true. So we're going to do the same thing here. We're going to say map public IP on launch, and we said true, right? Now the tags, well, I'm going to say first VPC ID, VPC ID. And guys, based on the knowledge they already have, what should we do here?
Reference demo VPC.
So basically copy this and paste it. Right?
Yep.
And now we have the tags. Right? We have this.
What was the IP? The slash is it a 16 for the subnet CIDR as well?
24.
Oh, 24. Okay.
24. Yeah, let's just like we did here. 24. Right? So the name is going to, the key is going to be name. And the value is going to be public subnet. Right? So this is the end of the public subnet creation. Right? Yep, that's how you create a public subnet. Of course, a public subnet has more properties, but we are using the ones that we need, right? Now we're gonna do, we continue with the steps. We're gonna create a route table, right? A route table for that particular subnet, right? So right now, we're gonna say create a public subnet route table, right? And we're gonna call it public subnet route table, right? That's gonna be our logical ID, right? And what are we creating? We're creating a route table. So we say type AWS EC2 route table, right? Route table. So if you take a look at Terraform, you have the resource here. What are we creating is a net, the logical ID. What are we creating is a net, logical ID. Same here, logical ID. What are we creating? A subnet, right? Similar, logical ID. What are we creating? A subnet. Remember, this logical ID can be anything you want, right? Now, what are the properties of the route table? Properties of the route table, right? Well, the route table has a VPC ID because the route table has to be in a VPC ID. And that we can do exactly the same as here. We refer to the VPC, right? And then the other property is the tags. See, it's not difficult. It's just some work that we have to do, but it's not complex. It makes sense all the way, right? And the value is going to be public subnet route table, right? Now, the difference between Terraform and CloudFormation is in Terraform. Once you create the route table, you can create the route right there. But in CloudFormation, we have to create the route as a different resource, right? As a different resource. We don't create the route in the route table, just like here. This is in the route table. You create the route here, right? Not in CloudFormation. CloudFormation, we have to create another resource that is a route, right? So I'm gonna, you guys with me?
Yep.
So let us create a route to the internet gateway. Okay. So now we say public route, right? Public route. What are we creating? We're creating a route. So AWS EC2 route. right? Now, this route depends on the attachment of the internet gateway to the VPC. So it depends on, and then we're going to say, copy the attachment right here. Notice that for this guy, we don't need to use the ref function, right? Only with the logical ID, it's enough, right? For the depends on clause. So now we have some properties, and we have to tell the route which route table it's going to be in, the destination CIDR block, where it's going to be pointing to, and the gateway ID, because it's going to be a route to the gateway, to the internet gateway. Okay, so we're going to say route table ID, and then we use the ref function to refer to the route table, right? Which is right here, right? This will get the ID for us, right? We also need the destination CIDR block, and that's going to be 0.0.0.0.0. That's the internet, and we could have easily created a parameter right here and said internet gateway CIDR, right? Right? And we can have the type string, right? And we can have the default, right? Right? And then make a reference to this guy. Right?
You put IWG instead of IGW.
Internet gate, yes. It doesn't matter. It's just the name. That makes sense. Good. So let me copy this guy. And say here ref to the parameter. Okay. Right. And then the gateway ID, that will be the other property. And then we refer to the internet gateway, which is here. Let me copy it from here. We copy the entire thing from here. And then I put it here. That's it. That's the route, right? So I created the route table. I created a route. Now what I need to do is associate the route table with the subnet ID, right? The association is still missing, right? You see, it's a lot of steps, right? So we create the VPC, we create the internet gateway, we attach the internet gateway to the VPC, we create the subnet, we create the route table, we create a route for that route table, and what we're missing is associating the route table with the subnet, right? So now what we're gonna do is go ahead and here associate public subnet route table with public subnet. Otherwise, the subnet will never be a public subnet. Okay? There has to be an association because the route table already contains a route to the internet gateway. So they have to be associated for the route table to be officially public, right? So the logical ID for this guy is going to be public, and it's going to be a long one, just because I want to have a long one. Public subnet with public subnet route table association, right? Type. What is the type? What are we creating here? An association, right? So it's going to be a subnet, And this is something that we cannot change, guys. Subnet route table association. That's the resource. Subnet route table association. What are the properties? Properties, well, we need the route table ID and the subnet ID because that's what we are associating, right? So the route table ID, we can get it from here, right? From here, we can get it. So we get it from here, right? And then we also need the subnet ID, right? And the subnet ID, we can get it from the subnet, public subnet logical ID, right? And then we say ref that. Okay, but that's the association already finished, completed, right? Okay, guys, so that is the end of the networking part. Okay, so we just created, again, we have 4 parameters. We have the key, which we're gonna use in the instance that we're gonna create. We have the VPC CIDR, we have the subnet CIDR, and we have the internet gateway CIDR, which we refer to later, right? Now, right here, we create our first resource. It's gonna be a demo VPC. So we use the type here, the properties, we refer to the VPC CIDR as the CIDR block. We enable DNS host names, we enable DNS support. The instance tenant is gonna be default. It's not dedicated, it's default. The tags here, key and value. We create a demo internet gateway, right? In the demo internet gateway, we have the type, depends on the creation of the VPC. This will force the internet gateway to be created after the VPC is created because it depends on it, right? Property keys, we have the gateway attached to demo VPC resource, and this is a VPC gateway attachment. We need the internet gateway ID and we need the VPC ID to attach them. We also created a public subnet that contains the type, contains the availability zone. This is where the public subnet is going to be. The CIDR block, the references the subnet CIDR, which is 10.0.0.0/24. Map public IP on launch true. VPC ID, we refer to the demo VPC. We also created public subnet route table. This is the type. We refer to the demo VPC, which is where the route table is going to be. And then we create a route. We have the route table ID, the destination CIDR block, and the gateway ID. Okay, and then we create the association between that. Now, I think we're ready to deploy it. We don't have the instance yet, but we can deploy this part here. And guys, for those who follow me. Are you ready to deploy too? Do you have any
Yes.
issues? Okay. So we can go ahead and now upload that in CloudFormation. So we can come to stacks again, or maybe create a stack here, right? And upload a template. I'm going to choose networking, right? And then next. And we have a problem. What's the problem? Route table ID. Invalid template resource property, route table ID. Let me take a look at that. So that would be, okay. 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 I forgot to put properties here. Okay. So guys, fix that in public routes. public route, I forgot to put properties. That's why it says invalid property ID, because I didn't put properties, right? So let me try now. Let me load it again. Okay, now it works. Okay.
Can you take us
So,
back to the code, Professor, and show us where you added properties?
where?
What you
Here?
fixed? Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And in the public route, I forgot to put properties.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And remember, when you type properties here, don't forget to leave the space here. Okay. For the properties.
The indentation,
because-
okay.
Yeah. So you can simply select them all and hit tab, and it will move them to the right for you. All right, so let's give it a template name or a stack name. My VPC, my network stack, right? This is the CIDR, and this is by default, and the key name is this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and continue. I don't have to do anything else. Next, next, and create a stack. Okay, and now we see that the resources begin to be created, right? And then you can refresh this and see, right? Right? Resources, VPCs in progress. So once it creates the VPC, remember that the internet gateway depends on the VPC. Once the VPC is complete, you see it starts creating the publisher net route table, the publisher net, the demo internet gateway, and all of this is pending, right? And you refresh that, the subnet route table has been created, and the publisher net demo internet gateway was created, the publisher net was created, the association is in progress, and soon enough, we'll be able to see those guys created, right? Resources, we see the resources here. The demo internet gateway is complete. The demo VPC, the gateway attached to it, complete. All these guys are complete. And in no time, we'll be able to see that the stack has been completely created. Right? As you can see, my network stack is created, completed. So we can go back to our account and start looking, seeing all the resources. So first we have the VPC here. We have the subnet here, right? And we have, and as you can see, the subnet belongs to the demo VPC. You can see the route table. It's right here, right? The route table belongs to the VPC, demo VPC, right? The internet gateway, it's already here. Demo is attached, as you can see, and is for the demo VPC, right? Now, let's take a look at the subnet and the route table associations. So right now in this subnet, we see the route table is the public subnet route table, and the public subnet route table contains the internet gateway route right here. So we can check that from the route table as well. So we take a look at the route table here, and the route table contains a route to the internet gateway, as you can see, and also the subnet association is associated with the subnet, the public subnet that we created. So everything worked perfectly, right? So we have our network components deployed perfectly that were created, right? And the CloudFormation template works, right? It works. Do you guys get it right?
Yes.
Yes.
So my question now, so far, what do you prefer, CloudFormation or Terraform?
Terraform is better.
Terraform,
CloudFormation better.
Well, I think
CloudFormation?
CloudFormation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yesterday I heard that CloudFormation is like the future for the clouds. They said like everything that has some programming. They didn't mention Terraform. Maybe it's one of them, but they mentioned specifically CloudFormation.
But CloudFormation, don't forget that it's only for AWS. Terraform is for Azure, CloudFormation. I mean, AWS, Google. You know, Terraform is used by multiple cloud providers. CloudFormation, it's only for AWS. It's AWS CloudFormation.
Professor, can we
That's
automate CloudFormation or Terraform? So if something happens, then you create without us creating the code each time.
It can be automated, and
Okay.
and you see it every day when you create a lab, right? You just click on a button, and everything is automated, right? It has to be triggered, right, by something. I mean, nothing starts on its own unless there's something that triggers it, right? An alarm, time, the button that someone clicks on, or
I wonder
something.
why the labs break all the time.
That's glitches and things like that, things that are now well designed, you know? But it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't, right? That's not a CloudFormation problem. That is a design problem. So now what we have to do, because we're going to continue deploying this, we delete it. So delete the stack, and now everything starts going back to the original position, right? Which is cool, right? So right now we don't see the benefit of working even much easier from the CLI, right? Because we're now using the SAM CLI, right?
So, Professor, I have a question.
Mhm.
Yeah, after all this we've done, what about the instances are servers? Are the subnets empty? Because
We're going to create the instance now. We just deployed it by steps for you guys to
Okay.
see how the networking component is fully created. You know, we haven't added an instance yet. We're gonna add it now.
Oh yeah, I'm saying so because you already said you're starting to delete.
Yeah, because I have to upload the template again, right? And I don't want to create resources that are already created, right? So I'm gonna delete everything, and then I'm gonna upload the template again, because I'm gonna
What
create
is-
the instance here.
Professor, what is detect drift?
A drift is when you create a CloudFormation template, and then instead of deleting things from the CloudFormation stack, you delete it in the console. So there is a mismatch between what is in the console and what was created with the CloudFormation template.
Okay.
That's a drift.
Because
Right.
then this shows drift results. I was looking at that.
Yeah. If you create something with a stack like this, and instead of deleting the VPC from the stack, you delete the stack and you delete it in the console manually, there's going to be a drift. There's a mismatch between them. That's what a drift is. Right.
Gotcha.
Okay. So it's already deleted. Let us continue and create our instance. We're going to create an instance, and we're going to create a security group. Okay. So we continue here in the resource portion. Remember, it has to be in the same level as the other resources. So now we're going to create an instance, an EC2 instance, right? And the EC2 instance is going to be deployed in the public subnet. We're going to create a server now, a server, an internet, a web server. We're going to create a web server for the other template after the break. Okay. So we're going to have this deployed, right? This deployed, and then we're going to, once this template is deployed, we're going to select the resources from this template to use them in the other template when we deploy the other template. And for that, we're going to use parameters. Okay. So what's the name of the instance, my demo instance? So that's going to be the logical ID of the instance. Okay. And I'm calling it my demo EC2 instance, because remember, when it's an instance, it could be an RDS, and I'm talking about an EC2 instance, right? So what I'm creating here, I'm creating an EC2. So I say an EC2 instance, I'm sorry, EC2, and then instance. That's the type, right? The properties of the type. All right. So I'm going to create a parameter, right? And I'm going to go ahead and go to and get the image ID from there. Okay. I'm going to hard code the image ID. So I'm going to come here, EC2, and here, launch. And the first step, I get the image ID from here. Okay. So I'm going to copy it if you want me to, guys, on Slack, right? Right here, challenges here, right? You can copy from there. And I'm going to have my image ID, right? So do I create a parameter? Parameter here, I can say image ID. Right? And I can say type, string, right? And default, I can do this, right? Perfect. So I can copy this guy and then refer to this guy. Right? Perfect.
You don't create its own category like underneath properties. You put the reference in the properties line.
Oh, did I delete that? Oh,
Okay, that's what I meant. Yeah, because
Yeah.
usually it's below properties.
yeah. So the key name, because remember that the instance has a key name. So we're gonna say refer to this one, this parameter here, which is, by the way, the same name, has the same name, right? Key name, right? So whatever key we select is gonna be taken from here, right? We also have the security groups, and it's in plural, okay? And it uses an array, okay? Just in case you have more than one. For now, we're gonna leave it that way because we have to create the security group later, okay? We leave it empty, okay? Subnet ID. So we're gonna refer to the public subnet that we created, right? Subnet ID, and then we come here, subnet ID right here. And then we can refer to this guy, right? And I have this subnet ID. What else do we need? The instance type. And right now we're not gonna use a parameter for the instance type, but in the other template, we're gonna do that so you guys can choose whatever instance type you want. Of course, you're gonna choose the one included in the free tier, right? Which is t2.micro, right? But we're gonna leave that open for the person that uses the template to choose whatever they want, okay? So we're gonna add a bunch of instance types to the parameter, okay? Now the tags, right? We're gonna say this is the name of this instance is going to be value, and it's gonna be a demo instance, right? That's it. Instance was just created. As simple as that, right? Instance created. Remember, we're still missing the security group. Don't forget that, right?
Do we got to hard code the security group?
No, I'm gonna create it. Create a new one. Create a security group. And the name of the security group is going to be maybe SSH. Why not? So we're going to say SSH and HTTP security group. Okay. And by the way, we can already, as we created it, we can already copy this, right? And use it here. Right? We already have the logical ID here, so we can use it here in the reference when it refers to the security group, right? Now,
So you have to put that in an array. The security group?
because it's groups. It means that you may have more than one.
Oh yeah, okay,
right?
that makes sense. Yeah.
So here the type is going to be a security group, right? So it's going to be AWS, EC2, and then security group, right? Now the properties, right? Group description. Okay. And if you study the console, if you see how you create a console, a security group in the console, and you compare with CloudFormation, you can see it's almost the same, right? When you create a security group, you have to give it a description and you have to give it the inbound rules. And that's what we're gonna do now, right? So what will be that? Enable access via ports 22 and 80, right? Now, in CloudFormation, we don't say inbound rules. We say security group ingress. Okay, security group ingress. So that will be the inbound rule. Okay, so right now, as is an array of maybe components of features here, we can say like this, and then we say IP protocol is going to be TCP. Okay, so if you take a look at a security group here, and we try to create one, right? We try to create a security group. Right? Create a security group. You're gonna have, when you add a rule, you're gonna have protocol, TCP. So IP protocol, TCP, right? After that, we're gonna have from port, and what port has 22 SSH, 22, right? And to port, 22, right? Now the CIDR IP is going to be my IP address. Very important. That's the best practices. Okay. So I'm going to see my IP address here is this one. Right. I'm going to copy that guy and put it here. Right. That's my IP address. Only my IP address can SSH into my instance. Right. Now the other inbound rule, IP protocol. So let me put here, this is SSH, right? And this one is HTTP, right? So this one is TCP as well. And that's from port 80 to port 80. And the CIDR IP can be, I can easily refer to the Internet Gateway CIDR if I want to, because it's the same, right? So I can do anything I want. So I can use this. And
Did you mean to say TCP again
huh?
for the IP protocol? Did you mean to say TCP,
TCP.
again?
That's what I meant. Thank you. That's what I meant. TCP. Right? Good. So now,
Can you explain
We-
something real quick?
yes.
When you do the from port to ports,
Mhm.
can you explain that? Like it's going from 22 to 22, from 80 to 80. Can you explain why, what that's saying? Like in, layman terms?
Yeah, it's like the ends from port 22 to port 22, because it's basically you opening port 22, and you're gonna use port 22 anyways from going back and forth from the IP, from the computer that is accessing the computer remotely. You're going from port 22 to port 22.
Oh, just looping around.
Yeah, right.
Okay.
So it's not going from port 80 to port 22, going from
Okay.
22. So my computer is using port 22 to SSH into the instance that has port 22 open. So it's port 22, port 22.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah, it's always like that. It goes from one port to the other, right? So now what we're missing here is the VPC ID, because remember, if you want to use a security group in a VPC, you have to create the security group in the VPC, right? So one of the properties VPC ID. If you don't create the security group in the VPC, it's going to tell you that the security group doesn't exist, right? So now we referred to the demo VPC, right? And last but not least, the tags, right? We want to give it a name, right? And that's going to be demo security group, right? We're done, guys. We're done with this template. Yeah? We're done with this template. This template has everything that we need to deploy an instance in a public subnet. Of course, the instance doesn't have any server installed or anything. We could have done it here, but we're gonna do it in the next template. Okay, we're gonna install the Apache server in the template. Okay, so for now, this is what we got, right? We're gonna create an instance, and then the instance is going to have an image ID, which we got from the quick start and your console. And we created a parameter. So I'm going to refer to that image ID from the parameter. The key name is the key that we have right now in our account. If you don't have any, it's going to show nothing, right? We should have one. Security groups, you may have more than one. That's why I use as an array, right? In this case, we only have one. Remember that you can have multiple security groups assigned to an instance, okay? The subnet ID, this is the subnet where the instance is going to be launched. The instance type is T2.micro, which is the one included in the free tier. The tags, we have the key, the name is demo instance. Then we have the security group, which has a type. Every resource has a type, don't forget. Properties, we have the group description. You can put here whatever you want. Security group ingress. This is the rule, the inbound rules that we create in the console. The first one is SSH, right, which has port 22. The protocol is TCP. And this is my IP address. Only my IP address can SSH into that. And here we have the IP, same thing, but it's port 80, and we are decided from the internet, which is the 0.0.0.0.4.0. And then we have the VPC ID, where this security group is going to be created, and then we have the key and the value. Okay. Everybody got this? Do we have this, guys?
Professor,
Mhm.
so we put a line 114. So we put just the security group ingress, just ingress because the security groups are stateful.
Correct. Correct. We only work in the inbound rules. That's it. We don't need to
Okay.
do anything with the outbound rule, with the outgress. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Very good. If it is NACL, yes, we have to work in both. Right? So right now we're ready to launch this guy. So we're gonna go to the stack to CloudFormation and create a new stack. Right? We upload, same process. This guy, and then we're going to hit next. And then we have the key here. The image ID is by default, like we did, right? And we say my architecture a stack, right? Right. So now that we have everything here, we hit next. And by the way, guys, in the other template, we're gonna improve this. This names, we're gonna improve it using the metadata section. This is gonna look much better. Like a question, what subnet ID do you want to choose, or something like that. Okay. So next, and hit next, and simply take a look at that, and then create stack. Now we're gonna see how resources begin to be created, and we're gonna see that we're gonna have a beautiful instance right there. In the meantime, guys, do you have any questions why this has been created?
So I have a question. So in the future, if you want this to be faster, you just reuse this template, change a few things, and it should be faster than using the GUI, right?
Correct.
Because like to set this
Correct.
all up is very time consuming for the
Yeah,
first
yeah.
time.
But it's only one time. But remember, when you get you become more acquainted and familiar with CloudFormation, it's going to be much faster, right? Because you already know what to do, right? And you only create it once. You save the template, and that's it. You have infrastructure as code. So basically, you have your infrastructure in your hands. It's in the template, right? It's super cool how you can create so many resources. Oh, it rolled back. Something is wrong.
Okay, before Professor, I do have a question. Like for console, we see that if we want to create multiple instances, we can just select the number. Like in CloudFormation, can we add something to specify? I want, for instance, like 7 instances instead of just 1, or should I put the code for each single one?
The problem with CloudFormation is that you cannot create more than one instance
At a time.
At a time. So you have to put another instance below that instance.
Gotcha.
Right? Okay, so we have a problem here. It rolled back by the user. The parameter group name cannot be used with the parameter subnet ID. Okay. That's in the instance. Yeah, I've had this before. Okay, so what we have to do is check here. So parameter group name had that be say here. I'm getting this error. It looks like it must be spelling error. Most of the parameters are in the caps. Actually, use a guys reference. Make sure that the reference we see ID in your security group definition. And that's what I did. Okay. That's what we did, right? The security group we refer to the VPC. Okay. Oh, a group ID. Okay.
Is it saying we can't just use instance?
Huh?
Is it saying we can't just use instance
We
as the type?
can't.
I was trying to understand that answer.
Yeah. I guess regress. Group name. We have to use group name. Okay. Okay. So that is for an instance. Mhm. Oh, let me see something here. I know what it means. So let me select for AWS EC2 instance CloudFormation. Okay. Instance CloudFormation. I see here. Security group IDs. This is what I have to use. Security group IDs instead of security groups. Okay. So this is what I have to do to use. I have to use security group. I cannot use security name, security group name. So here, now we have to use this. So that's my understanding. What's going on here? Let me delete the CloudFormation stack. Now that I read back. So I cannot create another resource, another stack with the same name because there's one been deleted. So I'm going to show you guys now if this works. I'm going to show you my new stack. And the key name is this one. Let's see what happens now. Let's see.
So instead of security groups, you put security group ID?
Yeah, yeah, because it's telling me that I cannot use a group
Oh,
name
IDs. Okay.
IDs. I can, yeah, it's always as an array. I
Plural,
cannot use in plural. I cannot use a group name with the subnet.
Okay.
When I use the subnet, I cannot use the. Let me see.
So you said groups instead of IDs, right?
Correct. Right.
Well, I'll wait till see if yours works before I create
Yeah,
another
yeah.
stack.
So that these are the groups you can create. It's a list of strings, as you can see, it's a list. Okay, let's see if it works. Well, I didn't get, okay, it was created now. Didn't get any rollback or anything. The demo EC2 instance is in progress. Okay, the EC2 instance is still in progress. It's creating all the things, so it didn't roll back this time. Let's wait. Okay, if it works,
So-
I'll show you guys what I changed.
So it's a name that you
Okay.
can't change, right? Like,
Right. The
so it
problem
has
is
to be
that
exactly how it's in the
the
system.
problem is, yeah, the problem is when you create the instance, you cannot use the group names with the subnet ID. That combination doesn't work,
Okay.
right? So you have to change the security group IDs instead of security groups, because that will take the name, not the ID, right? This takes the IDs because that's what it's looking for, the ID. So it refers to the security group, and from that, it gets the ID. Right? Combination, correct combination, security group IDs, and subnet. It actually worked because the stack is created, right? So from here, the error tell you that you cannot use the group name. Right now, guys, what you have to do is change here in the instance properties, instead of security groups, you type security group IDs, right? That's it. That's the only thing that you have to change, right? So now, if we go back to my console, I can see that my EC2 instance is running, right? Right here, my demo instance is running, right? And if you take a look at it, it was in the demo VPC, in the public subnet, right? It has a public IP, as you can see here, because it's in a public subnet. Okay, it's the T2 and micro. In the AMI that I chose, that's a Linux AMI, right? Using the cohort 3 key pair, right? I can go ahead now and SSH into this instance real quick, right? Right. And there you go. I'm logged in, right? I can go ahead now and install an Apache server. So I can say, become a sudo user or a root user and say yum -y update, right? Nothing to update. You say yum y install httpd, and it will install Apache for me, right? I can say systemctl start httpd and systemctl enable this guy, okay? And now I can check the status of the server, and it's active and running, right? So right now, I can look for that particular, let me see, cd into var, and I have the www folder here, right? I can cd into www, and I have the HTML folder here, and I can cd into HTML, right? And I don't have anything, but I can go ahead and create an index HTML file, right? And I can say HTML, right? And I can say H1, hello from NCI, close H1 and close HTML, right? Now I can save this guy. I don't have to close it, just save it. And then I can grab this IP and paste it here. And I get hello from NCI. Okay. So SSH into that. And by default, when you install an Apache server, by default, it creates a folder named www inside the var folder, right? www. And then inside www, it creates one HTML. And then inside that, you have to create an index HTML file, right? And once you create that guy, when you open it, you put some code there in HTML, save it, and you're able to see it from the browser right here, as you can see here. So it means that our template works perfectly. We're able to create a subnet that is public because it's associated with a route table that contains a route to the internet gateway. We were able to launch that instance. The instance is the subnet, and we're able to install an HTTP server and display something in the browser, as you can see here. So guys, just with code, we never use the console for anything. Did we use the console? No, from code. just the console to upload the CloudFormation template. That was it. But you basically have your infrastructure in a template. Isn't that cool? I mean, that's amazing. When you can have all your infrastructure in a piece of template that contains code, right? So you can carry that template with you wherever you go and create an infrastructure. What do you guys think?
It's pretty cool.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Hey, Professor, what's the, it's a dumb
Yeah.
question, but what's the SSH command?
the SSH command?
Yeah, so you can connect to this.
Okay.
I know you have to put your own key in. You have to put your own key in.
Right.
I'm just trying to
you-
remember it. I forgot to save the command.
The command is just depends on what terminal you're using. In my case, it's SSH. If you're
It's well, I use
using-
the same one as Mac because I'm using Windows CMD.
Okay. Try to connect from here. Right? Or use mobile extern.
No, I'm using CMD, Windows CMD. It works just fine. I'm
Okay,
just trying to, what's it?
SSH
Okay,
SSH-I.
and then you put in the key.
And then the key, let me show you here. So SSH.I, let me exit. Okay, exit. Okay. SSH-I, the name of the key. Remember, you have to be in the folder where the key is, right?
Yeah.
And then EC2, the user for EC2 is always EC2-user,
Yeah.
right?
And then the
Add-
IP.
And the host IP.
Yeah. Okay.
That should let you SSH, no problem. Right? So now that we're done here, and I'm going to be open the floor for questions, just in case you have any questions. I'm going to go ahead and delete the stack, right? And
So-
that will delete the stack for me. And you guys can ask me questions.
Yeah, SSH'd.
You did? Perfect. So now
the Windows
install
CMD,
an Apache server,
the yum thing,
the yum dash
A-
y install
APT.
HTTPD.
It's APT space install.
Can you see my screen?
Oh yeah, I see it. Okay.
So Professor,
Mhm.
CloudFormation is better than